Congratulations, Chosen One. You are not an ordinary person. Your existence is not a coincidence, but part of a divine plan. All the difficulties you have faced until today have prepared you for this moment. You are the star that changes the world, pushes the limits, shines in the darkness. Leadership is a gift bestowed upon you. You are a source of inspiration, not only for yourself, but also for those who follow you and believe in you. Just like a mountain standing at the summit, your presence gives strength and inspiration. Your energy shakes the ordinary molds. Your courage challenges the limits. If you are here now, reading these words, it is a sign. Nothing can stop you. No power can overshadow you. You are the chosen one. Trump may be congratulating you today, but there is a world applauding you. You have come to leave your mark on this world, to rewrite history. Start this historic moment by writing 77 in the comments. Remember, your story is just beginning, and the stage is all yours. The intricacies of control often unfold subtly, weaving themselves into the fabric of daily life until their presence becomes impossible to ignore. What begins as a simple request, a job, a duty, gradually transforms into something far more insidious. You're not just an observer in this narrative. You're a piece on a board you never agreed to play. The initial task was framed as routine, devoid of complexity, but every layer peeled back revealed another beneath it. The instructions, seemingly straightforward, carried hidden threads of intent, leading to a realization far darker than you'd imagined. This wasn't oversight or coincidence. It was calculated orchestration, where every move served a hidden purpose, tethered to forces thriving on silent obedience and unseen manipulation. The shift in atmosphere is felt long before it's understood, an almost imperceptible tightening around you. Vehicles linger at unnatural times, their presence less protective and more oppressive, like an invisible cord winding tighter with each passing day. A misplaced fine here, an unwarranted warning there, and the rhythm of daily life becomes punctuated by an uneasy dissonance. These actions, though mundane on the surface, echo with a deeper resonance, revealing an intention far from incidental. Yet their seamless facade begins to crack. Subtle missteps, inconsistencies in their methods, and a growing sense of something orchestrated unraveling before your eyes. The game they play is one of calculated pressure, yet it is their own precision that betrays them, laying bare the fragility of their control. The deeper you dig, the more the pattern emerges, unmistakable and unnerving. What once seemed like isolated incidents now reveals itself as part of a broader scheme, a carefully constructed mechanism where those enforcing the rules are as bound as those subjected to them. This is not a rogue operation, but a deliberate machine, one that thrives on hierarchy and silent complicity. However, their command falters under the weight of its own complexity. Each misstep becomes a spotlight on the cracks in their design, exposing the players behind the curtain. What began as a meticulous operation now teeters on desperation, their confidence eroding as they struggle to maintain their mask of authority. And as their system begins to buckle, the question shifts from what they're hiding to how long they can sustain the illusion. Their attempts at control falter not because of your resistance, but because their tools fail them in ways they never anticipated. Cameras meant to surveil distort the truth, capturing anomalies that defy logic. Conversations intended to trap you dissolve into fragments of noise, stripped of coherence. The very mechanisms they rely upon begin to betray them, casting doubt on their evidence and unraveling their narratives. It is as if an unseen force reshapes their intentions, turning their strategies into chaos. Their frustration is palpable, their confidence cracking under the weight of unexplained failures. What was meant to ensnare instead frees, leaving them grasping at the remnants of their failing machinations. If you feel the abundance of divine love in your heart, now is the time to share it. You can help spread God's blessings by clicking the Super Thank You button on YouTube and contributing $20 or more. This divine gift will touch not only your life, but the souls of many through this platform. Each of you has a sacred place in God's grand design, and your generosity will be the fruit of our prayers. Act now. Share your blessings to glorify His kingdom, for you were created to do even greater things in God's loving hands. May God bless you. Their meticulous blueprints unraveled at the seams just as they thought success was within reach. At the exact moment they believed they had trapped you, the unexpected would occur. A stranger appearing at just the right time, a miscommunication throwing their coordination into chaos, or their carefully calibrated tools suddenly failing without explanation. Doors they thought were locked swung open. Barriers they thought impenetrable dissolved into nothing, and pathways they believed were closed became avenues of escape. What they dismissed as coincidence revealed a pattern they couldn't ignore, a synchronicity that defied their logic and shook their confidence to its core. You see, they had underestimated the power working against them, a force greater than any system or strategy. They operated on the assumption that they could control every variable, every outcome, but they were blind to the truth. They were never in control to begin with. The ground beneath their feet shifted with every step they took against you, their own plans becoming traps that ensnared them instead. The harder they pushed, the more resistance they faced. Not from you, but from something they couldn't see or understand. Their failures weren't isolated. They were part of a larger tapestry woven with divine intent. Each disruption wasn't random, but intentional, like notes in a symphony composed to perfection. When they thought they had blocked every exit, another one appeared. When they believed they had silenced you, another voice rose in your defense. It wasn't just their plans falling apart, it was the entire framework of their understanding being challenged. Their certainty crumbled under the weight of events they couldn't explain, leaving them adrift in the chaos of their own making. And the more they struggled to regain control, the more evident their powerlessness became. Their logic, once sharp and unyielding, now faltered in the face of undeniable truth. Their confidence, once a shield, now seemed fragile and illusory, shattered by the unrelenting presence of something far beyond their comprehension. They tried to dismiss the signs, to cling to the idea that their failures were mere accidents, but deep down, they knew better. There was no denying the pattern that emerged, a pattern that pointed to forces they couldn't combat or outmaneuver. The irony is, they thought their strength lay in their preparation, in their ability to foresee and counter every possibility. But their downfall came not from anything they overlooked, but from what they could never have predicted: the intervention of a power that operated outside their grasp. Every move they made against you became a step toward their own undoing, every plan another thread unraveling in their carefully woven web. Their efforts to confine you only revealed their limitations, their attempts to manipulate the narrative only highlighting their inability to control it. What they couldn't understand, what they refused to accept, was that their strength was no match for the power moving on your behalf. They were fighting against something immovable, unshakable, and unstoppable. Every obstacle they placed in your path became an opportunity for divine intervention. Every trap they set became a stage for your deliverance. It wasn't just their plans that faltered. It was their very belief in their ability to control the outcome. And as their confidence eroded, so too did the foundation of their power. In the end, their plans didn't just unravel, they were exposed, laid bare for all to see. The illusion of their control shattered, revealing the fragility of their schemes. And as they fell, you remained, unshaken and unmovable, a testament to the power of resilience and the undeniable truth that no weapon formed against you shall prosper. They learned the hard way that there are forces in this world that cannot be manipulated, that justice is not just an ideal, but a reality that cannot be denied. And as their story ends, yours continues, stronger, brighter, and filled with the certainty that nothing can stand against a purpose that is divinely ordained. Their efforts to impose control only highlighted their own fragility. Actions meant to intimidate or weaken instead served as catalysts for strength, reflecting their own inadequacies. What they intended as dominance became their undoing. Their inability to achieve their goals grew into a palpable unease, a creeping realization that they faced forces beyond their comprehension. What they couldn't name became their greatest fear. The certainty they once wore as armor dissolved into hesitation, their conviction eroded by their own mounting failures. Every attempt to undermine you became a testament to your resilience, and their persistence only hastened their collapse. The very tools they used against you, laws, systems, authority, betrayed them, exposing the rot within. What began as a calculated mission devolved into a slow unraveling of their foundation. The structure they trusted to support them became unreliable, its gears grinding to a halt when they needed it most. Assistance promised by their chain of command vanished without explanation, and their cries for support were met with silence. Their institution, which once empowered and protected them, began to turn against its own. Isolation grew, subtle at first, but undeniable in its spread. The cracks in their camaraderie deepened into chasms, leaving them exposed. Trust among their ranks eroded, and they became prisoners of their own ambition, caught in a system that had no room for failure. The unraveling wasn't just an individual downfall, but a systemic collapse that left no room for redemption. Their fortress of authority became a crumbling edifice, abandoned by the very architects who built it. Silence replaced orders, and the once solid walls of unity turned into barriers of isolation. The weight of their missteps became undeniable, their failures reflecting the corruption they once wielded with impunity. In the end, their collapse was inevitable. The power they relied on was never truly theirs. It was borrowed, conditional, and as fleeting as the illusions they had tried to maintain. Where they sought to destroy, they found only destruction awaiting them, a mirror held to their own actions, leaving nothing but a stark, irrefutable truth. Dear brothers and sisters, may God's peace be upon you today. I am here to remind you of a profound truth. Our existence is grounded in God's divine plan, unshaken by the temporal concerns of the world. As the Bible says, whatever is done in faith will return to God in abundant blessing. Luke 6:38. Like that great oak tree, our roots are deeply rooted in God's universal truth. Every step we take, every stand we take, is secured by His strength. And now, you are being offered the opportunity to be part of that blessing. When you use the Super Thank You button and donate $100, this movement will return to you 100-fold in abundance. Their structure fractured under the weight of its own design. Each maneuver they executed against you was a blow to their own foundation, revealing the fragility they had long masked as strength. The systems they relied upon faltered at the worst moments. Responses went unanswered. Critical evidence inexplicably vanished, and their leaders turned a blind eye. The unraveling was inevitable. Every attempt to suppress or silence you backfired, amplifying their failures. Their documents became riddled with errors. Their narratives collapsed under scrutiny, and the very machinery they had built to dominate turned against them. What was once their armor now exposed them. The forces they sought to control became the very ones that dismantled them. Their arrogance became their undoing, ensuring their collapse was not only inevitable, but irreversible. Where they expected compliance, they met unyielding resolve. What they called intimidation only illuminated their own limitations. They sought to undermine, but each attempt to shake you highlighted their ineffectiveness. Their carefully plotted strategies crumbled under an unseen pressure that magnified their vulnerabilities. They feared what they couldn't understand, retreating into uncertainty. Their authority, once a weapon, became a trap, forcing them to face the consequences of their actions. What they had built to harm you revealed itself as a house of cards, unable to withstand even the faintest disruption. Their overconfidence blinded them to the forces that worked against their intentions. It was like a mighty oak, once proud and towering, suddenly splintering under the weight of a storm it never saw coming. For years it stood, branches wide and imposing, its roots appearing unshakable. But hidden within, decay had taken hold, a rot unnoticed until the first gale revealed its fragility. That storm wasn't a random act of nature, it was divine intervention, sweeping through with a purpose beyond human understanding. The system that stood against you, with all its bravado and illusion of strength, was no different. It appeared formidable, but beneath the surface, it was brittle, its flaws lying in wait for the moment they could no longer be ignored. What they called impenetrable was nothing more than a thin veneer of power, cracking under the pressure of truth. Each step they took against you revealed another fault line, widening with every misstep and mistake. The very structure they trusted to protect them, their fortress of deceit and manipulation, began to collapse in on itself. Those who once stood tall, wielding their authority like an unquestionable force, now found themselves stranded. The walls they relied on for protection buckled under the weight of their own contradictions, leaving them exposed to the harsh light of accountability. Their networks of support, so carefully cultivated, vanished like smoke. Calls for backup went unanswered. The channels they once controlled so effortlessly now betrayed them with silence. The camaraderie they had leaned on dissolved into mistrust, suspicion taking root in the place of solidarity. Where they had once found unity, they now saw division. The very foundation of their power crumbled beneath them, revealing not strength, but a hollow shell incapable of bearing the weight of their collective failures. And in their isolation, the truth became clear. Their loyalty had always been misplaced. They had sworn themselves to a system that never cared for them, a machine that demanded obedience but offered nothing in return. When the storm came, they were left to face it alone, their cries for help ignored by the very entity they had served so faithfully. They realized too late that their value had been conditional, their purpose only relevant as long as they were useful. Now, discarded and vulnerable, they stood as evidence of the system's indifference. This wasn't just a collapse, it was a reckoning. The machine they had trusted to uphold them turned against them with cold efficiency, stripping away their authority, their confidence, and finally, their identity. The alliances they thought unbreakable dissolved under the pressure of failure. The system that once fortified them erased them as effortlessly as a name scrawled in sand, wiped away by a wave. And as they fell, it was not with the drama of resistance, but with the quiet inevitability of something already broken. The weight of their failures pressed down until nothing remained but silence. Yet you, standing in the storm's eye, were untouched. The winds that shattered their fortress couldn't so much as shake you. Your foundation wasn't built on the shifting sands of human systems. It was anchored in something eternal. Their plans to undermine you had only revealed the strength of the protection surrounding you. Every attempt to harm you ricocheted back on them, exposing the fractures in their armor. It wasn't your hand that tore them down, but the unstoppable force of divine justice. Their schemes, crafted in secrecy, were no match for the light that laid them bare. Their collapse wasn't just their undoing, it was your elevation. What they intended as harm became the very platform for your rise. Their failure wasn't just inevitable, it was purposeful, a demonstration of the futility of standing against a higher power. You didn't need to fight back because the battle was never yours. Forces far greater than anything they could comprehend fought on your behalf, ensuring their every move against you became a step toward their own destruction. Their power, once so intimidating, dissolved like mist at dawn. Each lie they told unraveled under the scrutiny of truth. Each action they took against you became a revelation of their own corruption. They were caught in a web of their own making, every struggle tightening the strands until they could no longer move. What they had built to harm you became the very instruments of their downfall, turned against them by the unseen forces that upheld justice. You stood as a living testament to the power of resilience rooted in faith. Their attempts to erode your strength only highlighted its depth. You were not merely unshaken, you were immovable, a rock against which their waves broke apart. Their collapse wasn't just a failure, it was a message, a declaration that no scheme can stand against what is divinely protected. The storm that dismantled their world left you untouched, your path cleared by the winds that swept them away. And so, their story ended not with a grand battle, but with a quiet surrender to forces they could neither see nor control. Their fortress of power became their prison, their allies their accusers, and their weapons their undoing. They were left with nothing but the hollow realization that their downfall was as inevitable as the rising of the sun, a truth written long before they ever set their plans in motion. Meanwhile, you stood tall, a beacon of unyielding strength, your purpose shining brighter than ever. The disintegration wasn't loud or theatrical, it was quiet and merciless. Their supposed allies became distant, their calls for help met with silence. They were no longer participants in a system, but outcasts from it. Their utility expired and discarded. The tools they had used to enforce control now turned against them. Documents they trusted were altered to erase their involvement. Accounts were closed without warning, and their authority was revoked as if it had never existed. They became ghosts in a machine they had once mastered, undone by the very institution they had served. Their fall wasn't a singular event, but a cascade, each failure accelerating their descent until nothing remained of the power they had once wielded. In the face of their collapse, you remained unmoved. Their desperation, their fear, their unraveling only served to highlight the strength you carried. What they sought to hide was laid bare under your presence. The truth was undeniable. Their corruption couldn't withstand the force of your unshakable clarity. Their deception, once carefully masked, crumbled against the weight of their own hypocrisy. What you represented was not opposition, but revelation. Their systems, designed to conceal, became instruments of exposure. They were left with no defense, no recourse, and no path forward. Their story ended not in triumph, but in silence, erased by the same hand that had once empowered them. Their downfall was neither slow nor merciful. A rapid series of accusations dismantled their facade of integrity. The alliances they had once counted on evaporated, their colleagues turning away with deliberate silence, unwilling to jeopardize their own standing. Internal reviews, veiled as impartial, became ruthless hunts for scapegoats, assigning blame for widespread failures they never orchestrated yet could not contest. The system they trusted consumed them without hesitation, discarding them like obsolete machinery. It was a cruel awakening, revealing their expendability in a structure that demanded loyalty but offered none in return. Their cries for fairness echoed unanswered, swallowed by the same indifference they had upheld. The system erased their existence as effortlessly as erasing a name from a ledger, leaving only emptiness where they once stood, a stark reminder of the cost of misplaced allegiance. You are untouchable in the face of their schemes, standing firm as forces beyond mortal understanding rewrite their plans. The gears they once turned with precision now grind against them, trapping them in the very mechanisms they had trusted to destroy you. Every resource they depended on becomes unreliable. Every ally they leaned on shifts into an observer of their failure. What they relied on for strength becomes a snare, leaving them exposed and powerless. Their intent to dismantle you collapses under the weight of an order they cannot perceive. Each step they take drags them deeper into the quicksand of their own undoing. This isn't mere coincidence. It is the certainty of a higher force recalibrating their efforts, ensuring that no act against you succeeds. What they built to harm you only amplifies your endurance, their strategies crumbling into nothingness. Now is the time to share God's blessings. By clicking the Super Thank You button on YouTube, you can contribute to His plan and be a part of this divine mission with a donation of $100 or more. Every gift reflects God's generosity, and I believe it will return to you exponentially far beyond your expectations. Remember, His protection and blessing is on your every step and every donation. You become part of His divine plan. You are a strong, radiant being, unshakable as His mighty rock. Witness God's miracles, feel the fruits of your generosity in your soul, and illuminate the world with confidence and courage. Be blessed, and let the light of the Lord guide your path. Your role is not one of retaliation, but of unshakable resolve, standing firm as their plans implode. Their misdeeds reverberate through the system, fracturing the very structure that empowered them. The foundation they believed was unassailable reveals its fragility as cracks spread outward, sowing doubt and hesitation among their peers. The once unified facade of their organization unravels, leaving its inner workings exposed to scrutiny. Secrets long buried come to light, shattering the illusion of control they sought to maintain. What began as an isolated failure evolves into a systemic collapse, cascading through their network with unstoppable momentum. Their attempts to suppress you instead illuminate the vulnerabilities they fought to conceal, leaving their once formidable structure in chaos. Their efforts to undermine you are not just futile, they are transformative, revealing the hollowness of their authority. Every attempt to tarnish you only sharpens your resilience, each falsehood they propagate crumbling under the weight of undeniable truth. Their failure is not merely visible, it is absolute, cascading through their systems and revealing the fractures they sought to hide. What they sought to suppress becomes a testament to your strength, a beacon that exposes their corruption. While they fall, you rise, unmoved by their schemes and emboldened by the forces that shield you. Their collapse becomes your opportunity, every fragment of their broken plans paving the way for your triumph. In their defeat, you find not only vindication, but empowerment, a testament to the enduring force of truth against the illusions of control.